afternoon. I am Ruth Light, a past president of the Los Angeles chapter of the Women's National Book Association. As a longtime member of the WNBA, I am delighted to welcome all of you to the official announcement of the 2021 Judy Lopez Memorial Award for Children's Literature. And since we are virtual for the second year in a row, we are welcoming you from all parts of the United States, and maybe even from countries represented in a few of our winning books, those being Nova Scotia, Iran, Thailand, and Kenya. I'll begin today with a bit of history about the Women's National Book Association. The WNBA was formed in New York City during the women's suffrage movement more than 100 years ago by a small group of female booksellers, and today we are 11 chapters strong, spanning the United States from coast to coast. And since 1986, the Los Angeles chapter of the WNBA has been the official administrator of the Judy Lopez Memorial Award. Judy Lopez, she was a bookseller, a buyer for the California State University bookstore, one of the founders of the Los Angeles chapter of the Women's National Book Association, and a passionate promoter of literacy among middle school students, and that included her own daughter, Coco. Judy recognized the need to develop a child's love of books early in life, particularly during the ages of 9 through 12, when so many other distractions are coming into every young person's life. When Judy died in 1985, her family wished to honor her memory by continuing her goal of encouraging reading for adolescents, so her parents established a foundation, which became the Judy Lopez Memorial Award for Children's Literature. Her brother Jeff Slato and his wife Joan were lifelong supporters of the foundation and the award. Before we move on, I wish to give a special thanks to our selection committee, a dedicated and varied group of librarians, teachers, booksellers, editors, and book lovers who read as many as 50 books each spring and then convene for many meetings to evaluate their merits. The committee chooses a medal-winning book plus several honor books, giving this fine middle-grade literature a much-deserved spotlight.
And everything was really close this year, but the 2021 winner of the Judy Lopez Memorial Award for Children's Literature is, drumroll please, Everything Sad Is Untrue,
and bringing attention and readership to the outstanding authors. We have been celebrating this literature, published in the previous year in the United States, for the last 36 years, and are proud to administer this prestigious national award. I am now pleased to introduce Marilyn Taniguchi. Marilyn will tell you about one of our honor books, Sarah and the Search for Normal by Wesley King.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Taniguchi, and it is my pleasure to introduce author Wesley King and his 2021 Judy Lopez Memorial Honor Book winning novel, Sarah and the Search for Normal, published by Paul Wiseman Books, an imprint of Simon & Schuster Books for Young Readers. Wes King hails from Canada and currently resides in Nova Scotia. He has written 11 books for young readers, including the acclaimed O.C. Daniel, which first introduced Sarah. Daniel, a well-liked athlete, is trying to conceal his obsessive-compulsive behaviors when he starts to receive anonymous notes. He is both comforted and somewhat confused when he learns that they're being sent by Sarah, as she is known in their middle school as Psycho Sarah. In Sarah and the Search for Normal, we learn that Sarah has had many labels, most of them hurtful. Diagnosed with bipolar and general anxiety disorder, she is selectively mute and has panic attacks. Brilliant but taught separately from her classmates, Sarah is naive yet perceptive and has a surprisingly great sense of humor. But she wants desperately to be normal. So she closely observes normal teens and fills a notebook full of rules, including stop taking my meds and make a friend. Though reluctant, she also starts attending the teen therapy group led by her psychiatrist. And it is at those groups that she discovers she is not alone. After one session, her mom asks what she learned, and Sarah replies, I am a mudblood. 2 muggle parents, 1 crazy daughter, like Hermione, but less magical. In group therapy, Sarah also meets outgoing Erin, who becomes her first friend. Erin tells Sarah that normal is overrated and that the 2 of them are star children. Along with her first friend, Sarah tackles tough issues, and readers will cheer her every step as Sarah takes her first steps on the road to something even better than normal.
Hi everyone, this is Wesley King, and I just wanted to send a note expressing my gratitude for this wonderful nomination. The other nominees are just fantastic books and fantastic authors, so what great company to keep, and huge congratulations to the winner. But thank you again for promoting literacy. This particular story for me is very personal. It deals with a lot of mental health challenges, both in my life and my family's life. So it's a very raw, sort of real story. It deals with pretty heavy issues. But I thought that honesty was important for young readers, and obviously, or hopefully the jury agreed. So again, a huge thank you for the fantastic honor for Sarah in the Search for Normal. And I hope to read many more of the list to come, because obviously there's some great taste there. So take care.
Congratulations to Wesley King for his important book about finding friends and finding normalcy. Our next honor book is A Wish in the Dark. Gail Kim will introduce this book and tell you more about it.
A Wish in the Dark. For Pong, a boy born and raised in Namwan prison, life is unfair. Something which he and his best friend Somkit know only all too well. When Pong learns that the governor has scheduled an official visit to Namwan, he is determined to inform the man of the injustices, confident in his belief that this is the person who will understand and make things right. For Nok, the prison warden's daughter, the governor's visit is an opportunity to enhance her father's position in the eyes of the governor, particularly due to her father's lack of command. The governor has been in control ever since the Great Fire destroyed the city of Chitana. He restored order and is the sole producer of the flameless globes, which provide both light and power for the city. The lives of Pong and Nok intersect during the visit and results in a loss of innocence and the beginning of a relentless pursuit. Set in a Thai-inspired world imbued with a touch of magic, this story casts light on the dark side of order, when freedom has been sacrificed for safety and the consequences of power and control. Pong and Nok must learn to make their own judgments regarding things they have accepted as given, including each other. Recognizable issues in our world as well. For shining a light through the darkness of fear, repression, and injustice, bringing awareness kindness, and understanding, we are proud to name A Wish in the Dark a 2021 Judy Lopez Memorial Award honor book. Kokumaka, Kun Christina.
Hello, everyone. Hello, wherever you are. I'm coming to you from Austin, Texas. My name is Christina Soontornvat, and I am the author of A Wish in the Dark. And I so wish that I could be with you, but I'm glad that I have this opportunity to talk to you. Thank you so much for this incredible honor for having A Wish in the Dark be named a Judy Lopez Memorial Honor Book. I am so grateful for this and so thrilled to join the list of other authors that have received this award, authors that I admire and look up to. I'm just so pleased to be in their company. I thought that I would tell you a little bit about the book, about the inspiration for the story, since I cannot be there with you. So you might know that A Wish in the Dark is a twist on another novel, a quote classic novel, Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. So it's an old French novel that is like 1,500 words long. And but you might not know that the way that I was introduced to that novel was when the story was told to me by my mother when I was 10 years old. So about the age of the kids who are reading A Wish in the Dark now. So we were actually on a trip to Thailand at that time, and my mother had brought this book along, probably because it was really long and she knew we were going to be on a long trip. And she would read the story during the day and she would tell me, recap it for me at night. And I fell in love with the characters and with the storyline. And later when I, was a teenager, much more advanced reading, I read it for myself. And so, I was exposed to that story in Thailand when we were visiting my father's family in Thailand. That's where he was from. I can remember one of the things that I loved about the book the most when I read it for myself is that the author did something I had not seen other authors do before, which was he would introduce a character to you by seeing that character first through someone else's eyes. So, for example, perhaps it's a character who is living in poverty, and the first time you meet them, you're seeing them through the eyes of someone else in society who just describes them how they see them. And then later in the story, you see that character's through their own point of view, and you hear them through their own voice. And so you learn how other people had made assumptions about this person, how wrong they were. And so you just get such a deeper sense of their humanity by doing that. The author builds empathy and builds compassion in this way of telling the story. That made a huge impression on me. And I remember thinking, I've never seen an author do that. Until I had read that book. And so that was something that I really wanted to do in A Wish in the Dark. And it's the reason that I wrote the story from two perspectives, from Pong's point of view and Nok's point of view, because I really wanted you to see how they were very wrong about each other, how they were making lots of assumptions about each other, especially Nok making assumptions about Bong, and then, having her mind change so much when she got to know him as a person. I think that's important for all of us to do. And it's something I am working on doing as a person all the time. And then, of course, A Wish in the Dark is very much inspired by Thailand, about my father's stories of growing up in Thailand. He grew up in an atmosphere that was very much like Chattana, like this city on the river. He grew up in Bangkok, and his friends were, their relationship was very much like Bong and Somkit, more like brothers than just friends, right? And of course, the food. The food in Thailand was a huge influence on the book. And you know that food makes a big appearance in the novel. And so it's, as for someone who grew up not having books about Thailand in my libraries when I was a young reader, and not being able to see stories that represented me on the shelves of bookstores. This is just, to have A Wish in the Dark be recognized in this way and know that it's going to bring that story to so many other kids. It just means the world to me. So I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I hope that one day we will get to meet and celebrate in person. Thank you for all you do. Bye.
A boy on the run and a girl determined to find him. Thank you, Christina Soontornvat, for this compelling story. And now we turn to Cindy Finder, who will introduce you to our honor book, When Stars Are Scattered.
In both of Victoria Jamieson's graphic novels for middle readers, All's Fair in Middle School and Roller Girl, we meet strong, determined, very real, and lovable characters who are in situations that many young readers could imagine themselves being in. Not so in When Stars Are Scattered, where we meet Omar, a Somalian refugee who from a very young age experiences unimaginable tragedy, trauma, and loss. Omar faces these challenges with resilience, courage, fortitude, hope, and grace. When Stars Are Scattered tells his story. Omar had been working on a memoir for adults telling the story of his life as a refugee when he and Victoria met and decided to collaborate and create a graphic novel, Victoria's main genre for younger audiences. And what a truly remarkable book they created. With outstanding illustrations colored with soft, bright, yet warm hues, and with simple and concise language, Victoria tells the compelling, heartbreaking, yet ultimately uplifting true story of Omar and his brother Hassan's experience in Dadaab, a refugee camp in Kenya. They go to Dadaab after experiencing a violent takeover of their town in Somalia, where Omar witnessed the death of their father and where both boys are left with a deep uncertainty as to what happened to their mother and where she might be. Omar and Hassan were so very young when they were orphaned, 4 and 2 respectively, when they were forced to make the long journey to Dadaab, where they became the foster children to Fatuma. In the camp, we see despair, hunger, hopelessness, monotony, and anguish in the dwellers of the camp, yet we also see a deep and abiding spirit of community and camaraderie and concern for one another, as well as an undying determination to seek a better life. After 15 years living in the camp, taking loving care of Hassan, going to school and studying faithfully, and after going through the long and arduous process to get accepted for resettlement, Omar finally gets approval of the United Nations to be relocated to the United States, where he has settled and started an organization called Refugee Strong, which helps young students, like he once was, living in refugee camps. This is a truly remarkable story and a beautiful book that not only portrays tragedy, despair, and man's inhumanity to man, but most importantly, we see the deep courage, determination, hopefulness, integrity, and the need for community that is inherent in the human spirit. This book should be read by all young people. It is my profound pleasure to introduce you to Victoria Jamieson and Omar Mohammed, winners of the Judy Lopez Memorial Honor Book Award for When Stars Are Scattered.
I'm Victoria Jameson. I'm a co-author of When Stars Are Scattered with Omar Mohammed, and I'm so thrilled that our book was chosen as a Judy Lopez Memorial Award honor book this year. It's such a thrill and such an honor, and to be recognized amongst so many other wonderful authors and books this year, I'm truly thankful. Writing this book with Omar was a great honor for me. I felt very privileged that Omar trusted me to help bring his story of growing up in a refugee camp into a graphic novel format and to bring it to a wider audience. So it's an honor that I'll always be thankful for. And working with Omar since the publication of this book, I've seen such a wonderful outpouring of support for his nonprofit, Refugee Strong. And awards like the Judy Lopez Memorial Award just brings more attention to Omar and his story and to the plight of refugees around the world. So thank you once again for this tremendous honor.
Hi, my name is Omar Mohammed. I am the co-author of When Stars Are Scattered with Victoria Jameson. Our book was chosen for Judy Lopez Memorial Award honor book for this year. Thank you very, very much. That means everything to me and to our team. I choose to share my story so I can be a voice for those refugees that can't share their story. I choose to share my story to tell the rest of the world that I didn't choose to be a refugee. And no refugee choose to be a refugee, but the circumstances make us flee from our home country. That is the last thing any human being wants, is to flee from their home country. I'm also the co-founder of Refugee Strong, which is empowering refugees through education. Thank you very, very much.
Congratulations to co-authors Victoria Jameson and Omar Mohammed for their collaborative book, When Stars Are Scattered. And a special shout out to Omar for starting Refugee Strong, a nonprofit organization committed to empowering students living in refugee camps. Our final presentation will be given by Inga Chopra, and she will introduce you to our amazing 2021 Judy Lopez Memorial Award medal-winning book, Everything Sad Is Untrue, a True Story.
Daniel is a refugee from Iran, living in Oklahoma and making a presentation on his family's history for his class research project. In Iran, he was Khosrow, named after a king who, according to legend, commissioned a grand rug woven with gold, silk, and gems. Khosrow is forced to escape his home country with his mother and sister, while his father stays behind. Now, in a new country and with a new name, Daniel parallels Scheherazade in 1001 Nights, captivating his teacher and classmates and readers who all listen to his tales with intrigue, disbelief, and awe. It is epic. Daniel tells his story how children are, direct and honest in what they see. His stories are carefully balanced with playful humor, but does not shy away from serious issues like bullying, poverty, abuse, and racism. Weaving ancient Persian folktales and personal history with rich descriptive text, Daniel Nayeri is triumphant in the art of storytelling. Celebrating its form and purpose, he shares his story, capturing who he is with layers of personal history, transporting readers from ancient and modern times in Iran to Oklahoma. We are proud to present the 2021 Judy Lopez Memorial Award to Daniel Nayeri for Everything Sad Is Untrue, a True Story.
Hi everybody, my name is Daniel Nayeri. I am the author of Everything Sad Is Untrue, a True Story, which is the lucky winner of the Judy Lopez Memorial Medal Award for 2021. Gosh, thank you. Thank you so much for this award. It means the world to have this book given any attention and praise. And the reason, of course, is that this is the book that I've been working on for decades, it seems, even while I was working on everything else and going to my day job and doing everything that one does. This was the book for which I dreamed dreams. This is my whole heart. And the reason for that is it's the story of my family. It's the story of my childhood. About coming to the United States as a refugee with my mother, who converted to Christianity while we lived in Iran, where I was born, and whose trip really becomes the centerpiece of this whole story. It begins, of course, with Khosrow, which is my real name. Khosrow, this kid standing in front of a classroom in Oklahoma, where kids are getting up and telling about their summers, and he sort of stands in the front and has to explain himself. And he realizes very quickly that, how do you explain all of this? How do you explain generations of stories that all build up to the reason this kid is standing in front of them, who usually sits in the back row and who eats weird food and is quite an outsider? In order to do that, he has to explain why they were refugees. And in order to do that, he has to explain why his mother, converted, and why that's a capital crime. And even going back further, why her mother moved to the United Kingdom. And as he's doing this, as he's explaining why his father chose to stay and why he has an obsession with a particular candy bar or a stuffed animal, why he is the way he is, he starts to fold in the stories and the mythology and the folklore of Persian literature. He starts to feel, as he stands in front of this particularly skeptical audience of classmates like Scheherazade, the great storyteller of my culture, who in the Arabian Nights and the 1001 Nights, she sits before a murderous king and tells stories night after night, and the quality of which, the suspense of which, and the entrancing content of which keeps this murderous king at bay until this heroic figure of Scheherazade is able to save herself through the value of stories. Well, our little Khosrow is obviously not in a life or death situation anymore in his classroom, but he thinks of it almost as a social life or death situation, and so it becomes his entry into all these great stories, and of course into the feeling that his audience might be thinking that he's exaggerating things. He's lying. He has on his shoulders that burden that many refugees have, which often people don't know about. And when you're a refugee, when you're part of the global homeless, your life is fundamentally put on hold. You are in danger from the country of your birth. You no longer have paperwork of recognized paperwork like a birth certificate, say, or citizenship papers, and you are in a holding facility in a refugee camp, as we were, and your entire focus consists of going from embassy to embassy in various countries and applying for asylum to be allowed to enter the country and to live in safety. In order to do that, there's a very important and rigorous and long and difficult series of interviews that are given, and those interviews they're very challenging. Their entire purpose is to assess the truthfulness of this person's testimony. If you're a kid, as I was, you'll be asked all really basic questions. Is this your mother? Did you come here alone? Are you is she? And what they're trying to do, of course, is to assess the testimony and whether or not it's accurate. as a child, as a young child, I can tell you that it puts into your mind a very particular anxiety that you might have felt if ever you think someone is asking you a trick question. When someone points to the lady who's always been your mother and says, "Is this your mother?" It's such a simple question that the short answer is yes. Of course, when you are also aware that the stakes are so high, and you want to be precise and you don't want to be perceived as lying in any way, even these really simple trick questions become something that you spend a second thinking about, maybe too long thinking about, and as a result maybe looking suspicious, and as a result speaking too much in order to try to alleviate the suspicion that you've anticipated in your audience. This, of course, is the tone of the Everything Sad Is Untrue. It's a book that does not have any chapters. It is not broken down into the stylized and stylish, polished nature of a novel. It is presented as this young man speaking without taking a breath in order to alleviate what he anticipates is your suspicion, is the reader's suspicion of his story. He is desperately trying to get you to understand that he's not a liar. And as some kids do when they're the quiet ones and finally find an audience that they feel safe around, he doesn't stop talking. He doesn't take a moment to pause for breath or change the topic. He just goes. And for that, I wanted that feeling of his interior mind. He is very clearly in the heightened state of wanting to be understood, wanting to express a gigantic story that feels too big to express in single sentences, but also wanting to be trusted, wanting to speak so precisely and so accurately with so much evidence that one could never think he was lying. I wanted more than anything for him to feel deeply personal, as if he's sitting with you, because to him, who feels as alien as one can in any setting, he wants more than anything else to sit with one another. And he even says, to speak and to listen, to commune with one another in the parlor of your mind. This is the only way we can get to a place where we're no longer enemies. This, I think, is the core core of the book. He wants to communicate something through this even limited medium of a book, of a novel, of a written story, to get to a place of deep personal connection. I think this is something also that requires grace and mercy on both sides. It's a book that shows you how difficult it can be to stand in front of someone and, rather than not explain yourself, rather than clam up and be quiet, rather than withhold yourself, saying the exact opposite, choosing to be generous and to speak your story, to say, this is where I'm from, this is what happened. Some of it makes me look good and some of it makes me look silly. This is who my family is, this is where we come from. And to be generously sharing such a thing is to, in good faith, speak. But it's also a book that asks us about the obligation of the listener to say, you also have a job. You also have a calling, which is to be generous in listening, to be kind in listening. It is a book that requires forgiveness. He is a character who requires some latitude to be poor as a narrator. He is not a professional narrator. To be ill-trained, to be at times a kid, overly confident, and also maybe self-pitying. He is fundamentally someone that we have to look at, or at least I hope we look at, with some graciousness. And in return, he does the same. This sort of action that is is sort of prompted by this story, by even just reading the story and engaging with this kid. This was one of the central projects that I wanted to think about, is to give readers the, if not experience, certainly maybe hopefully not the first time, but at least the practice of generous speaking and gracious listening, and how the two work together. And that is, I think, what I mean, certainly, when I think about the empathy that stories can create. The opportunity for both of us to sit together in harmony and in company, and to commune with one another. I hope I get to do that with each of you. I hope I can thank everyone at the Judy Lopez Memorial Award. I hope I can shake your hands someday, share a meal, and hear your stories. I hope if you see me, you will come and generously speak to me your story. It would be a generosity for you to share it. And I hope I can be gracious and hear it and understand each other and just a little bit better. Thank you again. Thank you so much for this award. It is more than I deserve, and I am awfully grateful to have gotten it. All best. Thanks again. Bye.
In his book, Daniel Nayeri relates what it feels like to part ways with your home country, and what it feels like to forge a new life in a new country and make it your new home. Congratulations, Daniel, and congratulations to all of our extraordinary winners of this year's Judy Lopez Memorial Award for Children's Literature. Thank you for joining us virtually. Check us out at judylopezaward.org, where you can find this year's winners on our bookshop page, which supports independent booksellers. And speaking of which, I'd like to give a big thank you to Children's Book World in Los Angeles for having us here at their store. I'll leave you with their motto: celebrating diversity, knowledge, and enrichment. A world where every child sees themselves on our shelves. That concludes our program. We'll see you next year.